Welcome to today's show. My name is John. As always, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes or follow the links to social media in the podcast show notes. So please subscribe when you are finished listening. You can also go to snarkymoviereviews.com to read notes, bios, and other random movie thoughts. Today's movie is Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1971. This movie is the third of the original series, and in my opinion, it is the second best, preceded by the original. This movie didn't receive any big awards or feature prominently on any list. So with that, let's just jump into the actors, many of whom are show veterans. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Roddy McDowall returned as Cornelius. McDowall was covered in episode 118, Planet of the Apes, 1968. Kim Hunter also returned as Zira. Hunter was covered in episode 118, Planet of the Apes, 1968. Emmett Walsh played a military aide and actually got a few laughs. Walsh was covered in episode 36, Back to School, 1986. Natalie Trundy played veterinarian Dr. Stephanie Branton. Trundy was covered in episode 119, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, 1970. Ricardo Montalban played zoo owner Armando. Montalban was covered in episode 50, Battleground, 1949. Robert Gunnar as Landon was in uncredited archival footage from Planet of the Apes, 1968. Bradford Dillman played animal psychiatrist Dr. Lewis Dixon. Dillman was born in San Francisco in 1930. He graduated from Yale University before serving in the Marines in the Korean conflict 1951-53. When he returned, he began studying at the Actors Studio. His first professional stage work was in 1953. His first play on Broadway was in 1956. Dillman started out as a film actor with many great movies such as A Certain Smile, 1958, In Love and War, 1958, and Compulsion, 1959. However, just as quickly he started getting poor quality material to work with. These films include Francis of Assisi, 1961, Circle of Deception, 1960, A Rage to Live, 1965, and The Plainsman, 1966. He performed very well in The Iceman Cometh, 1973, and The Lincoln Conspiracy, 1977, but it wasn't long until he was acting in films like The Swarm, 1978, and Piranha, 1978. However, Dillman always did well on television and in television movies. His last work was in the mid-90s, but he is still alive. Eric Braeden played the role of Presidential Science Advisor Dr. Otto Hasseline. The character was mentioned in Planet of the Apes 1968 and Beneath the Planet of the Apes 1970 in conjunction with the theory of time travel in space. Braeden was born in Germany during World War II. Sounds nice. As a teenager, he moved to the U.S. He and a friend made a movie while at Montana State University. When they went to Hollywood to try and get it distributed, Braeden was discovered. He got a role in television's Rat Patrol 1966-68, playing a Nazi fighting against American and British in the deserts of North Africa. He could be quite reasonable at times for a Nazi. His main foe was played by Christopher George. Braeden did quite well working in television and theater, plus a few movies. His best-known films are 100 Rifles 1969, Colossus The Forbin Project 1970, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1971, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, 1977, and Titanic, 1997. In 1980, Braeden took a role on the soap opera The Young and the Restless and stayed there until 2017. During this time, he won 5 Emmys. Braeden is still alive. Sal Mineo played Dr. Milo, one of the chimpanzees that returned to modern Earth. Salvatore Sal Mineo Jr. was born in 1939 in New York City.
I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
After being thrown out of parochial school at 8, he began running with street gangs. Arrested at the age of 10, he was given the choice of confinement or acting school. He quickly rose to act in the theater with well-known professionals. He made his first movie at 16, Six Bridges to Cross, 1955, with Tony Curtis. The same year, he played Plato in Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. He allegedly turned down the role James Dean took because he thought Plato was more interesting. You see how that worked out. Mineo still received a Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination for his role. Mineo starred with James Dean, Rock Hudson, and Elizabeth Taylor in Giant 1956. Mineo was nominated again for a Best Supporting Actor Oscar as a Holocaust survivor that fought for Israeli independence in the great epic Exodus 1960. He had an extremely minor role in The Longest Day 1962. But hey, so did everybody else. He had a large role in the John Ford apology Cheyenne Autumn 1964. He was also in the epic The Greatest Story Ever Told 1965. Suddenly, the movie spigot turned off. This was partly because he had outgrown his youth roles, and partly because he played a sexual predator in Who's Killing Teddy Bear 1965, and because of his homosexuality. He still had a solid career in theater and television. Mineo was trying to get his film career going again and signed on to Escape from the Planet of the Apes 1971. However, even this role was cut short. In spite of all of that, Mineo was on the way to a comeback when he was murdered in 1976. It was not a planned attack against Mineo, as the killer said he chose his victim randomly. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
This movie begins at the same seaside cove that Taylor and Nova rode through before they encountered the Statue of Liberty. Then a helicopter breaks the silence. The ship that Taylor and company travel to the Planet of the Apes in is floating in the surf. Rescue divers jump into the water and the Marines head down the beach to line the shore. A cable is attached to the ship and it is pulled to shore. When the ship is on the beach, the general orders it opened and 3 astronauts climb out and are helped down. The general gives a crisp salute and says, "Welcome, gentlemen," as the 3 aponauts take off their helmets.
Welcome, gentlemen, to the United States.
Is he more shocked that they are apes or that one of them is a female? The 3 apes are trucked back to a military base and the spaceship is carried on a flatbed with no cover. The general's aide, Emmett Walsh, says he has called the zoo and they are fairly empty, with only a depressed gorilla and a few other animals.
Call the zoo.
Yes, sir. We're in luck. Sick bay's almost empty except for a mauled fox cub, a deer with pneumonia, and a depressed gorilla.
We can't let a lot of monkeys leave their messes on the floor, huh? Had they been fed, raw steak or something?
The zoo tells me that chimpanzees, like all apes, are vegetarians, sir. They suggested oranges.
Good God.
He has picked up oranges as he has been told chimps are vegetarians. We now know that chimps kill and eat meat. When the general and his aide arrive, the 3 chimps are getting dressed. When asked where the clothes came from, the general is told by the guard that they brought them with them. After the aide gives them oranges, they use plates and utensils to eat. They hear that they will be housed next to a gorilla at the zoo, and the female makes a face. I had forgotten that she was pregnant at the end of the last movie. They are moved to a zoo and the gorilla looks bad. When the keeper offers the female a banana, she slaps it away. After the keeper leaves, the apes begin talking, and they are Cornelius, Roddy McDowell, Zira, Kim Hunter, and Dr. Milo, Sal Mineo. Zira is very emotional and upset by the smell of the gorilla.
This cage stinks of gorilla.
I know where we are. I know what has happened. In some fashion, and I lack the intellect to know precisely how, we have traveled from Earth's future to Earth's past.
Milo talks about how the chronometer started going backwards after they were hit by the shock wave. Zira can't understand how they could be on Earth when they saw it destroyed from space. The destruction, as viewed from the spaceship, was filmed but not used. So the explosion that destroyed Earth happened beneath the Planet of the Apes 1970 and this movie. Milo tells them they are about 2,000 years back in time and they should never let anyone hear them speak or learn that the ape war caused the destruction. One thing this movie never explained was how the spaceship was recovered from the lake, repaired, refueled, launched, etc. At least there were 3 stasis chambers for the apes. They do mention being hit by a shockwave, so their trip may have been speeded up, making stasis unnecessary. 2, I assume, animal psychiatrists, Stephanie Branton, Natalie Trundy, and Lewis Dixon, Bradford Dillman, come to the zoo to test the apes. Stephanie and Lewis are amazed that they changed into clothes. I would be more concerned that they have knives. Lewis starts giving tests to Zira, and since she is a smart aleck, she aces all of the memory tests. They then lower a banana to see if Zira can stack boxes to reach it. She does, and just sits there looking at the banana. When Stephanie asks why she doesn't take it, Zira blurts out, "Because I loathe bananas." Lewis and Stephanie are shocked and go out for air. The three apes get into an argument about talking. The brilliant Dr. Milo gets too close to the gorilla cage and the gorilla snaps his neck. Lewis goes in to talk to Zira and Cornelius. Zira mentions that she has done work on humans and they bond because both are psychiatrists. Zira and Cornelius feel they can trust Lewis. The president informs the Joint Chiefs about the talking apes. He convenes a commission and invites the press. This has to be juxtaposed with the orangutan tribunal in the first movie. Zira and Cornelius are brought before the tribunal in chains. They are still keeping any knowledge of Taylor or Brent a secret. They have a priest on the panel and he speaks out about the chimps being lawfully wedded. The president's science advisor, Dr. Otto Hasslein, Eric Braden, tells the press that he expects to find fear. Zira does a great job charming everyone with her wit, but she does slip and begin to talk about dissecting humans. Hasslein catches the slip. Cornelius wows the crowd when he says he can only speak if his wife allows it.
But Dr. Dixon, are we to infer that Zira is her name or some phrase in her own language?
Infer what you will, Mr. Chairman. I suggest you rephrase the question.
What is your name?
Zira.
Does the other one talk?
Only when she lets me.
Zira tells the commission that they came from Earth's future. They also don't reveal that Earth was destroyed. After the hearing, Cornelius tells Lewis and Stephanie about Taylor and the human research. They also tell they saw the Earth destroyed from space. Stephanie makes a face like she has a turd on her upper lip. Dr. Hasslein goes on a television show and talks about what the apes said. Hasslein explains time travel by an artist painting a picture of an artist painting a picture of an artist painting a picture, and so on.
Could you explain in terms that our viewers at home will understand how, for instance, a person or persons could travel from time past to time future, or indeed vice versa?
Now, here's a painting of a landscape. Now, the artist who painted that picture says something is missing. What is it? It is I myself who was part of the landscape I painted. So he mentally takes a step backward or regresses and paints a picture of the artist painting a picture of the landscape. But still something is missing, and that something is still his real self painting the second picture. So he regresses further and paints a third, a picture of the artist painting a picture of the artist painting a picture of the landscape.
Time is like a freeway with lanes to the future. I don't get it. It's like listening to A Short History of Time by Stephen Hawkins. I don't get that either. Although the audiobook almost caused the whole car to fall asleep and run off the road in Texas. The two chimps are treated like visiting dignitaries. They are moved into a luxury hotel. Cornelius is given a suit.
May I measure your inside leg, sir? No. Oh.
And Zira gets a fine dress. Los Angeles were shocked when they saw filming and apes were walking down the street. The scene where Cornelius plays golf was cut from the movie prior to release. At a party, Zira is given wine and told by Lewis that it's grape juice plus. Who does that sound like? Zira is speaking at a woman's club while Cornelius is taken to a prize fight.
A marriage bed is made for two. But every damn morning it's the woman who has to make it. We have heads as well as hands. I call upon men to let us use them.
Of course, Cornelius is horrified by the violence. Hasslein takes Zira to the Natural History Museum after her talk. Zira sees a stuffed gorilla and passes out. She reveals to Hasslein that she is pregnant. She asks for grape juice plus. Bad mama. Hasslein gives her the drink and she starts running her mouth. Hasslein records her words. She tells him that they saw the rim of the Earth melt while they were in space. She also tells that they came from around 3950 or so. Hasselon takes the information back to the president. The president mentions King Herod trying to have Jesus killed and how that worked out.
Alter what you believe to be the course of the future by slaughtering 2 innocents, or rather 3 now that one of them is pregnant. Herod tried that, and Christ survived.
Mr. President, Herod lacked our facilities.
The president will not kill the chimps without being convinced. Hasselon thinks they should alter the future. This is a good example of the time travel paradox and when you try to change the future and actually create it. Hasselon goes to the commission and gets the authority to further interrogate the chimps. The chimps are taken to a secret base. Louis and Stephanie go along as caregivers. They use standard interrogation techniques like bright lights. One of the interrogators calls them monkeys and Cornelius objects.
Chimpanzees had no part in the destruction of Earth. Only the gorillas and the orangutans.
What's the difference? You're all monkeys.
Please do not use the word monkey. It is offensive to us.
This is not an interracial hassle, but a search for facts.
Hasselon says this is not an interracial hassle. Man, that's some 70s jive. Cornelius explains there was a plague on dogs and cats. Humans took apes into their homes as pets. After about 200 years, the apes were more like slaves. In another 300 years, they overthrew their masters. According to the prehistory ape scrolls, a chimp named Aldo uttered the first "no." They then call Zira out on her dissection slip. Louis is called in and told to give sodium pentothal truth serum to Zira. Cornelius is locked away in his cell. Louis warns Zira about what she is being given. Hasselon gets the information that Zira operated on live and dead humans. She tells about the guerrilla hunting parties and military practices. They also learn that she and Cornelius knew Brent and Taylor. Zira is taken back to her cage as Hasselon takes the new information to the president and the commission. They basically accuse Zira of criminal atrocities. They are going to have the chimp baby aborted and sterilize the 2 adults.
Therefore, the Commission unanimously recommends that the birth of the female ape's unborn child should be prevented, and that after its prenatal removal, both the male and the female should humanely be rendered incapable of bearing another.
Back in confinement, Cornelius is very upset. An orderly comes in with a tray of food and refers to the chimp baby as a little monkey.
Chow time.
I'm not hungry.
Well, maybe somebody else is who can't talk yet, huh? Oh, come on, ma'am. It's pure vitamin C. You better drink your soup and eat the oranges for the sake of that little monkey you got.
Cornelius smacks the orderly and then he and Zira escape out a window. Cornelius does not know that he has killed the orderly. Louis calls Stephanie to come help him tell the chimps about the commission's ruling. Zira and Cornelius open a gate and flee the compound. As the escape gets going good, Zira goes into labor. Hasselon and Louis make it to the compound and find out about the escape and murder. This gives Hasselon the idea to have the 2 parents and the unborn child killed. The president doesn't want to have the apes killed. The president orders that they be taken alive.
In a democracy, we do not shoot unarmed suspects on sight for a murder in which their participation is still legally unproven.
Cornelius leaves Zira and goes to find Louis. He knows he will have trouble for hitting the orderly. Stephanie makes it to the compound as the search parties head out. Cornelius hears that he has killed the orderly. Cornelius flags Stephanie down and calls her Stevie. She agrees to help them. Louis and Stephanie take the chimp to a traveling circus run by Senor Armando Ricardo Montalban, a friend of Louis's. He agrees to take the fugitives in.
You are asking me to risk imprisonment for the sake of 2 fugitive apes? Well, the answer is 1,000 times yes. Oh, yes. I do it for you, and for Stevie, and for your 2 distinguished friends.
Notorious.
Armando has a chimp named Heloise that has just given birth. Zira's baby is born, and they name him Milo after their dead friend. The name is changed to Caesar in later movies. Back at the compound, Hasselon is freaking out, but makes the zoo/circus connection. Armando had planned to take them to Florida where they could live in the Everglades. until they would eventually be killed by pythons. Armando gives a St. Francis medal to the baby. Zira goes to say goodbye to Heloise. Louis and Stephanie take Cornelius and Zira as far as they can before giving them supplies. Louis gives Cornelius a map. At this point, the greatest line in the history of cinema is uttered. Louis asks Cornelius if he can read a map, to which the ape replies, "I am an archaeologist. I can even draw one." The map takes them to Long Beach Harbor. They are to stay there a week and then they will be smuggled back to the circus. Cornelius asks for a gun so they can kill themselves rather than be captured. Zira kisses Louis and says he is the second human she has kissed, and Cornelius kisses Stephanie and says, "You are my first."
You're the second human I've kissed.
And you are the first.
Y'all got jungle fever. Zira abandons her bag in an oil field, so she is only carrying the baby. The bag is found and reported to Hasline. He goes in search and sees Cornelius moving on the deck of an abandoned ship. When Stephanie and Louis find out, they head that way also. The three chimps are waiting in an oil tanker for help to come. Hasline arrives at the ship and takes out his gun. Hasline finds Zira and demands the baby. Zira runs and the Marines and police arrive on the dock. Hasline hides because he wants to kill the apes. Louis and Stephanie show up as well. Zira tries to make it to Stephanie, but Hasline catches up to her and shoots her in the back before firing several shots into the baby.
Zira, I want that baby. If you won't give it to me, I'll shoot.
Cornelius uses his gun to kill Hasline. The Marines and police gun down Cornelius. He falls to the deck. Zira throws the baby into the water and goes to join her husband in death. Armando is preparing to move his circus to Florida for the winter. He goes to the baby chimp in the cage and calls him an intelligent creature. He then says, "So were your mother and father." They show the baby chimp wearing the St. Francis medal. The chimp says, "Mama, mama, mama, mama." There was another ending where dogs tear up Cornelius and Zira after Hasline shoots the baby. However, it was dropped. This would have fed into the long-standing hate of dogs by chimps. See Sundiver 1980 by David Bryan. World famous short summary? Trip to LA ends tragically. I hope you enjoyed today's show. You can find connections to social media and email on my site at snarkymoviereviews.com. There are links in the podcast show notes as well. Remember, this show is completely free and independent. All that I ask is that you jump over to iTunes and give me a review. It really helps the show get found. Beware the Moors.